It was the first Monday of the new school term at Westwood High, the kind of school where cliques ruled the hallways like little kingdoms, and newcomers were either swallowed whole or forced to fight for air. The morning sun was bright, golden light spilling across the courtyard as students streamed in, laughing, gossiping, showing off their summer tans and brand new sneakers. Among them walked a girl who seemed to glow in her own quiet way, though not in the way most students noticed at first. Her name was Ilara. With long dark hair that framed her face like a curtain and a pair of eyes that carried both softness and fire, she stepped into the yard wearing plain jeans and a faded hoodie. She wasn't the type to demand attention, but she caught it anyway, the kind of attention people give when they sense someone doesn't quite fit the mold. Ilara was new, transferred in from another district under circumstances no one knew about yet, and the whispers had already started before she made it through the front gates. "Who's she?" someone murmured. "Looks shy," another said, smirking. A group of girls with glossy hair and polished smiles glanced her way, then turned back to their phones, rolling their eyes. And then, as if on cue, the schoolyard predators appeared, the bullies. Westwood High's bullies weren't just random troublemakers, they were practically celebrities in their own twisted sense. Led by Trevor, a tall, broad-shouldered boy with a cruel grin that seemed carved into his face, the group consisted of three others: Max, a wiry kid with restless hands always itching to grab something; Jenna, whose beauty masked a razor-sharp tongue and a love for humiliation; and Cody, the follower, who laughed too loud at every mean joke, eager to prove his loyalty. They were feared because they were ruthless, and they loved nothing more than targeting weakness. To them, Ilara was a blank canvas, new, quiet, and seemingly defenseless. That made her perfect. Ilara clutched her books close to her chest as she walked across the yard, the sound of laughter and shouting echoing in her ears. She tried to keep her head down, focusing on finding her first class, but she could feel eyes on her. It was like walking into a storm where you know the lightning will strike, you just don't know when. Trevor spotted her immediately. He nudged Max and nodded toward the girl. "Fresh meat," he muttered with a grin. "Let's see how fast she cracks." The group followed her, circling like vultures waiting for the right moment. When Ilara paused by the water fountain to check her schedule, Trevor stepped forward. "Hey," he drawled, his voice loud enough to draw attention. "You lost, sweetheart? This isn't daycare." His friends burst out laughing. Ilara looked up, meeting his eyes for a brief second before glancing away. She didn't answer, which only fueled his amusement. Max leaned closer, pretending to study her schedule. "Oh, look, she's got math first." "Boring. You sure you're smart enough for that?" Jenna flipped her hair and sneered. "Or maybe she transferred here because her last school didn't want her." Cody added, "Maybe she's mute." The laughter grew, echoing across the courtyard. A small crowd had started to gather, students drawn by the scent of drama. Ilara's cheeks burned, but she kept her mouth shut. She had promised herself not to make waves, not on her first day. Just get through it, she told herself. But Trevor wasn't finished. He liked breaking people on day one, it set the tone, and everyone knew it. Without warning, Trevor grabbed the garden hose that was coiled against the wall of the maintenance shed. It was used to water the small patch of lawn near the basketball court, but in his hands it became a weapon of humiliation. He twisted the faucet, and a strong spray of water shot out. The crowd gasped, some laughing, others pulling out their phones. "What do you say, boys and girls?" Trevor shouted, grinning wickedly. "Should we give the new girl a proper welcome?" The chant started almost immediately, fueled by peer pressure and the desire for spectacle. "Do it! Do it!" Ilara froze. Her heart pounded in her chest as Trevor pointed the nozzle at her. She thought of running, but before she could move, a blast of ice-cold water slammed into her, soaking her from head to toe. The courtyard erupted with laughter, the sound deafening. Her hair clung to her face, her hoodie plastered to her skin, and her book slipped from her arms, falling into a muddy puddle. Max doubled over, howling with laughter. Jenna pulled out her phone, recording every second, and Cody laughed so hard he had tears in his eyes. "Look at her!" Jenna shouted. "She looks like a drowned rat." Ilara stood there, trembling, water dripping from her clothes, her face pale but her eyes dark with something no one noticed yet, something dangerous. She could feel her humiliation boiling into something else, something sharper than fear. She took a slow breath, her fingers curling into fists at her sides. The crowd expected her to cry, to run, to break. That was the game. That was the role new kids were supposed to play. But Ilara wasn't like other kids. Not even close. The laughter continued, echoing in her ears, but Ilara's gaze locked on Trevor, and for a split second he faltered. Something in her eyes made his grin waver, just a fraction. It was as if she wasn't just looking at him but through him, into the cracks of his bravado. Ilara bent down, picked up her soaked books, and straightened slowly. The water dripped in rivulets down her sleeves, pooling at her feet, but she didn't look broken. She looked calm. Too calm. The crowd quieted slightly, confused by her reaction. Where were the tears? Where was the begging? Trevor forced a laugh. What's the matter, new girl? Cat got your tongue? But Ilara didn't answer. Instead, she gave him the faintest smile, one so subtle it was almost chilling. Is that all you've got? She said quietly, her voice carrying farther than it should have in the stunned silence that followed. The words cut sharper than any scream, sharper than any plea. For the first time, Trevor didn't know what to say. The crowd shifted uneasily, whispers breaking out among the students. No one had ever stood up to Trevor like that, not without fear in their voice. Ilara turned, dripping wet, and walked toward the school doors, her back straight, her steps steady. Every eye followed her, and though laughter still lingered, it was weaker now, uncertain. Trevor's jaw tightened. This isn't over, he muttered under his breath. He didn't like being challenged, especially not by someone who was supposed to be easy prey. As Ilara disappeared inside the building, the tension in the yard hung heavy. Something had shifted, something no one could quite put their finger on yet. But they would soon. Very soon. Because Ilara wasn't just another new girl. She had a past, a strength hidden beneath her quiet demeanor, and what she would do next would not only shake Trevor and his gang but the entire school. The bullies thought they had won by hosing her down, but in reality, they had lit a fire they couldn't control. And when that fire burned, it would make them run. The rest of that first school day was a blur of whispers, stares, and the weight of eyes following Ilara everywhere she went. Her soaked hoodie had dried, though faint water stains clung stubbornly to the fabric, and the humiliation still hung heavy in the air like smoke after a fire. Students avoided meeting her eyes, half afraid, half curious about what she might do next. In every classroom she entered, silence seemed to ripple through the room before resuming in hushed gossip. Phones buzzed with the video Jenna had posted, Ilara standing drenched, books ruined, while Trevor laughed with the hose in his hand. It spread like wildfire across the student body, captioned with cruel words and laughing emojis. But what stood out most to everyone wasn't the water or Trevor's smirk, it was the way Ilara had stared back at him, calm, unflinching, and with that almost chilling smile when she whispered, "Is that all you've got?" It replayed in their minds because it didn't fit the script. Victims weren't supposed to act like that. Victims were supposed to cry, run, hide. Ilara had done none of that, and the uncertainty unsettled even those who weren't involved. Trevor, on the other hand, spent the day puffing up his chest, laughing louder than usual, trying to erase that moment from his memory. But deep down, the way she had looked at him gnawed at his confidence. He pushed the thought aside. "She's nothing," he told his friends at lunch. "I showed her who's boss." But Jenna raised an eyebrow. Then why didn't she look scared? Trevor glared, slamming his soda can down. "Because she's stupid. Tomorrow, we'll remind her. No one talks back to me." The others nodded, but unease crept into their eyes. Something about this girl felt different, though none of them could explain why. That night, Ilara sat on her bed in the small apartment she shared with her aunt. The walls were bare, her belongings neatly arranged in a single suitcase by the dresser. She stared at the ruined textbooks, water-warped and torn, and let her fingers trace the edges. The humiliation still burned in her chest, but it was laced with determination. She had been through worse, far worse. Back in her old school, she had faced cruelty that went beyond hoses and laughter. She had endured betrayals, lies, and a torment that had nearly broken her once. But nearly wasn't the same as completely, and from that